Hi everyone, welcome back to Workshop, and it's repair time again, and look what I've got here, another HP power supply. Yes, this is number 3 that I'm attempting to repair here. The first two I'll link down below the videos for the repair of those power supplies. And just a little side note here, I didn't actually keep those power supplies that I repaired. One of them I sold on eBay fairly recently. The other one I actually gave away to another YouTube channel, one that I highly respect for what the guy does, and maybe sometime in the future, if I'm lucky, we might see it on camera being used. But for today, I've got a 6611C. It's a different form factor to the other power supplies that I did repair. This one's much slimmer there, and it's a 8 volt 5 amp power supply. The 6611C, there is other power supplies in the same series, a 6612, etc. But this is a 11C, which means it's the 8 volt 5 amp version. It's noted as being faulty, and it doesn't output any voltage, and it errors on the display. So we'll be taking a look at that and see how we get on. Now, as yet, at the time of this video, I don't have schematics for this power supply, but I do have a service guide, so we'll see how we go with that. So first things first, I need to do some checks on the line voltage incoming, etc. Make sure we're set up properly, because it did come from overseas. So a quick look in the back before we open it up. So on the back of the unit now, we don't have a selection on the back panel for the AC line voltage. Looks like I've got to go inside for that. There is a sticker on the back which makes me think it's currently set up for 120 volts, because it has no mention of a line voltage of 240 volts. There's a sticker on there, so I suspect if I peeled that off, there's probably the 230 volt option on there, and the respective fuse size to use. So you've got AC input, the fuse there obviously, got sense terminals here, and a sense local or remote. So currently set to local, keep everything inside. GPIB, a serial connection there, and the inhibit and fault indicator outputs on there. And of course at the left hand side here we've got a rather large heat sink there. Obviously this is for the airflow there. So let's open it up and take a look inside. Okay, that's the lid off and we're inside. A little bit dusty, but it's not too bad. Can see quite a layer of dust underneath this PCB here, which is oddly a little bit loose. I don't know if it's meant to be like that. And a fan at this end here, I'll need to give that a bit of a clean. So I think I'll go and blow it out before I start, but just a quick look at the other side. And it's just the chassis really, so you've got no real access to this bottom PCB here, so let's hope that we don't need to go anywhere near that. Otherwise it looks like I'll have to strip this thing completely apart. So one thing to note, this flat flex here doesn't look like it's all the way in, so I will need to take a look at that. It's not wobbling about. This one here, wow. Now when I took the lid off, something did fall out, and I kept it to one side. It's the little clip that holds this flat flex in place, and obviously it's just fallen off. So it doesn't look like it's broken. These things do just clip into place. The little clips at the end there, oh no, wait a minute, is that broken? Yeah, I think it is broken actually. The ends here look like they've broken off. So looks like I'll need to take this board out once I get it blown out, and let's see if I can reattach that. Now that looks like, I don't know much about these power supplies at the moment, but it looks like we've got an analog board and a digital board probably, and this flat flex here is linking the two. So already we're starting to look at a possible remedy for the repair. Like I said, the original fault was that there was no output or no control over the output, something like that. So this would definitely have a problem. This would definitely cause that there, so we'll need to take a look at that. Everything else looks like it's in place, nothing else looks broken, but yes, this fell off when I fell out when I took the cover off. So I'll go away and get the airline on it, blow out the PCBs, get rid of all this dust, and then we'll try and move forward. Right, like I said, before we power it up, I need to set this unit to 230 volts. Big transformer here. There's actually 4 sets of connections on it. You can see the spade terminals there for this top 2 banks of connections, but there is actually, if you look down in there, you can see at the bottom side of the transformer on both ends there's connections as well. Now luckily the manual does tell you how to set up the AC input, and it's this bank of terminals here. You can see that we've got some wiring coming off of a couple of the terminals down onto the PCB where the main switch is, so we're obviously in the right vicinity there. So we've got a service manual. It does say how to set up the incoming AC, so we'll take a look at that now. We'll verify it is set up for 110 or 120, something like that, and we'll work out how to change it to 230. Which is this one here, which has 2 series windings there, and obviously with this configuration of the terminals there. So I'll go away and do that now. So that's all set up there now according to the diagram, and I've got one spare orange jumper there, and it actually tells you can park it over on this other side here, so I'll just do that now. And I'll just double check the connections over on here. We've got a grey wire which goes to the first terminal, and then the jumper wire, the orange jumper, links 2 and 4, that's correct, and number 3 is open, and then the other wire goes on to terminal 6 with 5 and 7 open as well, so that's perfect. So next thing I want to do is check the fuse. I've already gone ahead and checked the resistance across the live and neutral there, and we're getting a good primary winding there on transformer. So we've got a 20mm fuse here, and the size of it is 2.5 amps, so that's definitely the 120 volt option. So I'll wait and dig and see if I can find a 1 1/4 amp. Well, I don't have a 1 1/4 amp, so I've got a 2 amp. I guess that'll have to do, so we'll put that in. And there we go. So let's get it ready for a power up. Okay, and here we go, ready for a power up. So I've left the flat flex disconnected for the moment. I want to see if I'm able to replicate the symptoms that was described to me for the original fault, which was an error 11, I think it was, and no control over the output. So let's power up. I've got everything ready to go, and let's hit the button now. Wow, that's a noisy fan. And we've got a display. We've got no control over the output at all. The buttons are responding. I'm not exactly sure how you use this power supply. So we've got an error indication there. I assume we can have a look at that. Error 1. Don't think that was the same error that was described to me. But then again, I have completely disconnected the flat flex, so maybe there was making some sort of minimal contact in some of the pins there. Yeah. No control over the output. So I think the next thing I'll do is I'll try reconnecting that flat flex, checking the other smaller one, and see where we go from here. So here's the broken part of the shell. and you can see it's identical to this other one. So I'm going to have to see if I can pull this part here from this shell and use it on the other one there. Now the little plastic ends there that have broken off of this one are probably still inside this other shell. I'm going to have to see if I can pull this one off of this shell without doing exactly the same. And it looks like you can. If you look very closely, there's two little slots here, and that's so that you can actually prise that to one side and hopefully remove that plastic pin that goes down inside there on both ends. So I'll go away and see if I can do that now. Yep, that's one side done. This one's been a bit awkward. And that's it. Yeah, and if you look closely, you can see there's a couple of little hooks on the end which stops it from coming straight out. So that's that one. So now onto the broken one. Now I'm thinking that probably the two little hooks are probably still down inside those connectors. So let's see if we can locate them and hopefully get them out. Nothing's coming out, so I think we should just be able to push the new one in. Yep, and that's it. Perfect. And I do have a stock of old circuit boards. It's quite possible I've got a replacement clip for that shell there, so I might take a look at that if we can get the rest of the power supply up and running. And I don't really want to leave this connector here without a shell, especially when I don't know what that port's for. But anyway, let's forge on, let's put it back together and see if it's any better now. But before I do that, a quick look inside the analog board. It's still a little bit dusty, but nothing looks like it's going to be any cause for concern. There's no reefer caps, so nothing to replace there. Everything looks in nice condition. Yep, we've got all these, presuming they're MOSFETs down on the heatsink there, or perhaps some regulators, and we've got some other heat sinks here with some TO220 packages there. Everything looks quite reasonable. The caps look like they're in all right condition there, and no bulging, no leaking. Perfect. So let's get the board back in place. Put a couple of screws in. And that's nice and tight in there now. Perfect. Let's power it up. Right, here we go. And the fan took a lot longer to start up, and it's not near as noisy because it's running a lot slower. That's a good thing. Let's see what we can do here. And we've definitely got control now. And no error as well. I wonder if that was an easy repair. So let's take a look and see if there is any error. Error 0, so I presume that's quite normal. These buttons down here are not that great. I think I'm going to have to pull the front panel apart and clean up the switch contacts there on the membrane, because I don't, you got to press quite hard to get them to work. So that's yeah, okay, so 8.19 volts, that's as high as it'll go, 8 volts. So let me just select, see if I can select 5 volts. This right arrow seems to be working okay, it's this bottom arrow that's definitely not great. And output on 4.996, so let's see if we're getting that in the output. So let me just hook up multimeter here. Uh, 4.7 volts, so it's not great, is it? Looks like it needs recalibrated, but I don't think that'll be a problem. So it looks like the fault was a broken flat flex ribbon connector. Wow. So I'll need to go and dig out the user guide and see if I can, well, I've got to find the user guide first and see if I can find out how to use the power supply and also how to recalibrate it. Right, the plan of action is, I've worked out how to use the front panel buttons, etc. A quick look in the user manual, and I've also got the calibration guide, which I'm going to run through now. I'm going to pre-calibrate the unit. The case is still open. I should really be doing calibration with it all closed up, but I'm just going to pre-calibrate it just to try and get some accuracy on my external meter there, because the calibration does seem to be quite far out, although it's working. I've got my electronic load hooked up off camera, which I'm also going to use to calibrate the current output. Once we get that far, I can then test the unit to make sure it's working across its entire voltage and current range, and if we get that far, then I know the unit's working okay. I can then box it up, leave it powered up for a couple of hours, something like that, and then do another recalibration with it all boxed up, and then we should have effected a good repair then. So I've just powered it up, and we'll go into calibrate mode now and start the procedure. Okay, I've got the power supply set up now. I've got my external DVM here, and I've also got my electronic load hooked up off camera so that I can test the current output, and I'm going to try recalibrating to see if I can bring that voltage on the output back in. So I've got the programming guide off camera just to the side here, so we'll run through the procedure. It's fairly simple. There's a couple of points on it that it's easy to make a mistake, so let's start from scratch and follow the procedure. So the first thing is reset the unit. So that's that reset, turn the output on and press Shift Cal. It's asking for a password. The default is 0. It's like a 2-digit number. It's 0 at the moment, so press that. So I'm into calibration mode, which is signified by the CAL. So now I'll go to Shift Cal, go to Cal Volt. There we go, press enter, and then Shift Cal again, go to Cal Lev P1. Now what that does is that enables the first set point, and that's shown in the meter, it's 0.59. So now go to Shift Cal again, go down to Cal Data, press enter number and enter the number on the DVM, so it's 0.59. 0.59, enter that. Okay, press Shift Cal again, go to Cal Lev again, and this time the second set point, so press the down arrow there, brings up P2, enter that, and you can see that the output's gone to 7.024 volts now. Fine, and then Shift Cal, go down to Cal Data, and enter the number on the DVM. So it's 7.02. I'll smite it up. Could probably use a keypad to do this, but this is the way I think I'll do it. 7.02, press enter. That's that done. So now Shift Cal, go down to Cal, save. There we go. And then Shift Cal, calibration off. So now we're out of calibration mode. So that's voltage calibrated. Let's test it out, see if it works. So voltage, enter number, 5 volts. Look at that. Perfect. It's not bad. 5.028 for 4.9995 on the display there. I could probably tweak the entered value in to bring this closer, but I am just using my BM786, so who knows how accurate that is. For calibration I should really be using something like my Keysight 34461A to get the level of accuracy needed for a proper recalibration, but I can do that at a later date once I get the cover on the unit, once I know it's recalibrated. So let's test it out and let's make sure that the current displays okay as well. So I've got my electronic load hooked up off camera. We've got it set to 5 volts, and let's see what's the current set to. So current, enter number, and let's set it to 1 amp. The output's on. Let me turn on the electronic load, which is set to 2 amps, so it's way above the 1 amp, so this should limit it to 1 amp here. 0.9998, that's great, and obviously the voltage has come down to get the 1 amp. So let's adjust that electronic load down to something less. So let's put it to half an amp. Turn output on. So now I've got it set. Yep, half an amp, 0.5002. So the current is spot on. It's actually more accurate than the voltages at the moment. So you can see I'm getting a little bit of a difference now, a little bit more of a difference now. That's probably a volt drop on these banana setups that I've got here, and obviously the internal wiring within the power supply as well. So let me turn off the electronic load, and yes, you can see that comes back up to 5, so it's probably got something to do with this. So let me try reversing those bananas actually, so that the DMM is right on the banana outputs instead of being after this chain here. Let's see what difference that makes. So output on, half an amp. Didn't make that much difference, you know, there's not much difference here. So it's probably the internal wiring within the unit there. So looking good, it looks like it's recalibrated fine. Why would the calibration be lost? Well, it could have been that the flat flex got broken, whatever, and somebody powered it up, noticed the power supply wasn't working, and maybe made some attempt to recalibrate it. Who knows, and it saved it, you know, but it wasn't that far out. It was only a little bit out. It wasn't like it was miles out or completely upset totally. So I'm not too sure about that. Turn the electronic load off. But anyway, it seems to have recalibrated, so it seems to be working. So I'll box it back up now. I'll let it sit again for a while under load, and then we'll try recalibrating again with the case on. So before I put the case on to do the final calibration, I do want to look at these buttons in the front there and clean up the contacts. As remember at the beginning I noticed that this bottom button here wasn't really working too great unless you really pressed it hard. So it's probably the contacts on the membrane are needing cleaned there. So I'll do that now. So let's open it up a little bit further and see if I can take this front panel off. I think I'll need to disconnect this flat flex here. Which goes to the front panel. There we go. That's it. And there we go. Let's see if I can get inside this and remove these circuit boards. Right, so I think you just slide the boards to one side, much the same as the other HP power supplies that I repaired. The other ones had a nut on the rotary encoder, but there is no nut here, but you can see that it does slide. And they've got these here which show that it can slide to one side. So let's have a look and see if I can do that. And there we go. I think I've got the board slid to the one side to enable me to pull it out. Yeah. And that's the display board removed. So I'm going to use some IPA to clean up these contacts here. It shouldn't really be tarnished because it looks like it's gold plated, but there is some level of dirt on there. But what I will also do is clean up the back of the keyboard rubber here, which is absolutely manky. In fact, I think I'll give this a wash indoors, and then a little bit of IPA just to clean up those carbon contacts on the back of the push buttons as well. As you can see, this is the one that was not working very well, this bottom arrow, and it looks to be the dirtiest of the lot, so definitely in need of a clean there. So I'll go away and do that now. Oh, that's it cleaned up. Wow. Very nice. And it's just about dry enough. Let's get rid of some fluff and rubbish that's in the... A little bit of a clean up in here as well. Just dust. Go. Okay, that's the PCB cleaned up as well, and we can reassemble. And that's the circuit board back where it should be. Yeah. Okay, next thing to do is I'll just clean up this here. I'm not going to use IPA on this because I don't really know what it's going to do, so I'll use some soapy water on this as well. Just like magic, that's all nicely cleaned, so I can fit this thing back in here again. That's it. And we'll have some here, refit the rotary encoder knob. That's it. Okay, so let's power it up. And wow, the display is definitely a lot clearer than it was before. It's amazing what a clean and inside of that black bezel and the display did, the VFD. Wow, what a difference. So let's see if it's actually still working. So I've got it disabled at the moment, the output. So voltage, let's go for 2.5. Oh, sorry, pressing the wrong numbers here, wrong buttons here. Let's see, voltage, enter number. 0. Let's say 7 volts, and we'll set the current to 1 amp. Enable the output 0.7. Yeah, it's slightly out. I mean, it is still warming up, but I think I will, like I said earlier, run it for a while under load, etc. and get it up to temperature, and I'll recalibrate it again, but I can do that off camera later on, that's not a problem. So let's try the other end of the scale. So voltage, enter number, 8 volts, and I've got output enabled already, so you can see, yep, it's definitely seems more accurate at the top end. And just to check these buttons that weren't working that great before, they're working a lot better now. I don't think you can see it very well on camera, but that digit there is flashing, that 4th digit. And if I press this key here, just nice and lightly, you can see it's gone to the next one to the left there. It's flashing away, waiting for it to be changed. Yeah, that's working good. Yeah, and the down button's working great. I can adjust the voltage there. And 0.1 of a volt steps. And back up the way, yep, the up arrow is working good as well. Perfect. So the only thing I've still got to do is I can do that off camera as well. I'll just clean up this bezel, a little bit of dirt there. I'll just get a cloth and clean it up with some IPA a little bit. And that's another HP power supply. I'm not going to keep this one, so if you are interested in it, I'll put a link down below to my a link to eBay where I'll be selling this power supply. It might not be straight away, but I will get it online in the next few days, sometime after this video has been published. But anyway, that's another nice HP power supply brought back from the dead. Thanks for watching.